see if YouTube's going to let us go live today. Apparently YouTube is going to let us go live today. Excellent. The other snips. We found the snips. Oh, we also need the steamer. Hang on, friend. See what's going on in the world. All right, we'll eat that later. Hello, good morning. Okay, good. My video's uploaded. So now I can switch out to my bigger screen. Hello, everybody. Okay, so I'm changing my DC event to be a Philly event. You got the love bomb color. Right now I'm just packaging up all my stuff, all my crafts. My week of making Portuguese content, trying to see my Portuguese and Spanish markets for the book. So I hope people will ask some questions and stuff in Portuguese. It makes it much easier to build. I'm having like what might be like our final writers meeting of Culting of America, just to make sure everything's handled. And then we are going to, then it's going to be in production. And I have like maybe a tiny bit of work to do on it this week. And then it's like out of my hands. Yay. I'm excited for book club too. I'm always excited for book club. Book club is fun. Okay, Janelle got, oh yeah, all the rainbow, all the pride earrings. There we have them. Thanks for listening to the book. It's one of the more intense things I've done, record that book in 5 days. I don't know why they gave me 5 days, but I'm going to record the next one in more than 5 days. Oh, I like having pride sleeves. That's cool. I mean, I have like the labels print out with also the packing slip of what the person has. So as long as I just do it in order, I think it's going to be okay. Ah! I screw up the labels. She got purple. Whoops. I need to put those on a cute little earring board. There we are. Okay. So I got, thanks for listening. I'm glad it resonated. If you buy something from my shop, just put it in the notes. And if you can't, like some people say they can't find the notes, then like once you buy it, you'll be able to message me in the app, in the shop app. And then just tell me what you want. I put some of the ones, well, I put the ones I finished up yesterday, but today I got hooks so I can complete the rest and then put pictures up there. So Knitting Cult Baby made her debut on the stage as an Oompa Loompa, and she did very well. And also, like, I already did my video, right, on, like, cultiness of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but, like, the whole think positive. Yeah. Culty. Purple fringe. Whoops. And, but yeah, it's done. Culting of America is done. The audiobook is on Spotify Premium. If you subscribe there, you can listen for free. If not, it's like anywhere you get your audios. Audible, Google Play Books, libraries. So it's on all of those. Okay. And make sure we're sending Haley the right thing. All right. She wanted these ones. These are the bell earrings. I'm giving all these ones Disney princess names. I need to make another pair because these would go very well with my yellow jumpsuit. Yeah, so I'm adding on an author's note. It's my most recent thing to talk about the different like forms of cults. We have commune cults. We have one cults, which is when one individual comes under the coercive control of another individual, often called an abusive relationship outside of cults. And then we have single family cults. And I realized that like it's one of the most useful things I talk about, but I didn't like put it in the book. So there's now just an author's note at the beginning, so you can be thinking of that the whole time. And also, I made this little challah. I'm going to steam it. I'll probably end up in my shop soon. It's kind of a bigger one. I'm making this one because I have a really good orange and blue outfit, but then I sold the collar, the orange and blue collar. So now I'm making another one, which will probably also end up in my shop. I won't get to that. It is common for people to go from like a commune cult or create their single family cults. But I also even think like these big systems like Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witness, military, Alcoholics Anonymous, evangelicals, Baptists, right? They give you the formula on how to be kind of like a cult leader. You know, so you have to learn it from somewhere. And he who shall not be named once said that he thought every cult leader grew up in a cult. And I'm like, if you think about single family cults, it makes sense. And this is also like what military brats are describing when they say like, yeah, my dad raised us like as though we were also Marines. By the way, I'm pretty sure every state has some version of military drills as child abuse. So, you know, and not all of it is like you're doing it on purpose, right? I'm not saying like these people are horrible people. I'm just saying that like if you're actively raising kids while in the military, I think it would be hard not to put that on them in many ways. Just because that's the world you live in and the form of control you live in. I mean, I'm not stressed out about it because I'm not going to stress about things I can't change. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I'm not going to send my book to the Pentagon this time, you know, like I'm going to feel safe with this administration, but, you know, they're not effective. Steamer do. Well, one, it cleans it. So I always just like steam them before I send them out or whatever. Very, very hot steam. But it's just like, it's called steam blocking, and it just helps like all the stitches settle. And then you can like shape them. So I'll like make sure all the coils are really nicely shaped. This is like this one, especially I need it to like loosen up because it's pulling the collar out of shape because it's longer. Republican, his dog's name is Style. Style as in never going out of. Not as in Harry Styles. But I mean that song was probably about Harry Styles, so
Or is it never coming into in this case?
I haven't done I have done one RBG collar. It's for somebody, but I'll show it to you. I also do an RBG sweater with like a white collar knit into it. That's pretty cool. So it's an actually good point. I should steam this one too. This is one that I made for my therapist, actually. Oops, put that. It's on like a stone necklace, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it is brainwashing. Like that is, it's interesting studying organizational psychology and cults and the military, because basically in the 60s, right, when we got our prisoners of war back from Korea who had been reprogrammed, right? Koreans had learned it from the Chinese. Mao did this to his whole country pretty much during the Great Leap Forward. Okay, so then America discovers brainwashing and is like, ooh, can we use it as a weapon on our own people? So they go to put together modern day basic training, and they hire 4 psychologists who studied abusive relationships and cults, because those guys always been knowing how to do it, right? And then they put together modern day basic training, and every version of like every branch of the military's training has this part of identity breaking indoctrination. And this is the part that I don't think, like, whenever people are like, well, you have to have it, I'm like, interesting, because we only started doing it in the 60s, and we also haven't won a war since then, you know?
Maybe you have to have it to call it an all volunteer force.
And that could be. So, Mr. Knitting Coal Lady, everybody. So military friends are either treated like soldiers or parents let them go up. Yeah, exactly. Okay, just going to hang these here so they can dry. Off. And now I have to make some dragon scale earrings. Someone said to call them fishy logic. And I'm like, oh, that might be good. The steam is for the fabric to like the knit to like settle and kind of loosen up. And you can do this, by the way, with any, like many of the fabrics you wear are knit, right? But I had this like a Calvin Klein little black dress or something. And like every time I would go through the wash, it would like shrink up a little bit. And then I would just get it all wet, lay it out, pull it, pin it, because you can always like reshape knitted stuff basically. So it's just getting it into place. And also because I send people colors that I have worn, I do that for cleaning it. Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't been like a huge blocker in the past, but like with a blanket, I probably wouldn't spend the time on it. It'll just get worn as it gets used. But for other things, I want to do it. So, but yeah, if you have a sweater that gets deformed, you just like, you could use a steam blocker, and that's actually pretty easy to do that. And then just shift it into place. But you can also just like soak it in warm water with like a tablespoon of dish soap. And the dish soap also helps the fabrics loosen up, but it's not enough that you have to really like rinse it out. An even smaller amount of dish soap. And then you can like lay it flat and spread it out. And even they have pins for stuff like that, but you don't really have to. Also, when you want to dry clothes without wringing them, you can knit clothes, squeeze out as much water as you can, then you wrap it in a towel, and then you just step on it up and down, and squeeze it out, and you can like hang that up. Okay, we're making some mermaid tail earrings. We can make them different every time. Oh well. Yeah, so I wrote down a bad first draft of the musical script. So it's out of my head and onto the page. And I might just be super crazy and send the complete actual rough draft to a friend who's musical and see what they have to say. Sleep deprivation is to break you down psychologically. Yes. And like literally after like military training wasn't the worst. You know, the worst sleep deprivation was having a baby. I was like, oh, I have a whole new understanding now of like the way that we do sleep deprivation and how it breaks you, right? It's not just not letting you sleep, it is letting you get some sleep and then waking you up with a loud blaring noise to which you must attend before you can go back to sleep, and then doing that over and over again. Also in the army, when you had a soldier that was really not like working out and you wanted to break them, usually having to do with not being able to show up on time or being reliable, because your punishments were supposed to be related, and you would have that soldier have to sign in at staff duty, just basically have to sign in at a desk somewhere in person every hour on the hour for 24 hours. And if you really want to break them fast, you make them do it in a different uniform each time. So they have to get up. There's basically three different uniforms. Get up, put on their fatigues, go down, sign in. Next, get up, put on their PT uniform, go down, sign in. Next, get up, put on your PT uniform or on your dress blue uniform, go down, sign in. So you're only getting about probably 20 minutes of sleep at a time. And then shockingly, they start to act better. Oh, it is. It's like the military is such a mind game. And I think that is also why like it's very common for kids from high control childhoods, whether that's like a religion or like a military parent or something, to go into the military or the government. And like we do very well because like we're used to tamping down our personality for the group and like doing hard things and working from a very young age and just like playing the game. When I in my first day on basic training, you know, holding this duffel bag above my head, going like, oh, I just joined another cult. And then my next thought is like, well, I'm going to be better at it than the rest of these suckers. You know, like I know how to do this. You have it. Yeah. It works until you do it to other people. Babies are hard if it's a person you love torturing you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You have to do something ridiculous at least sweet. I mean, they have to be both the most adorable things on earth and also like we're genetically predisposed to love them. Otherwise, we would just not. Because there's nothing rational about parenting. If you add up the pros and cons, it's always a bad idea. It's just this ethereal, like, but you love them. Yep. Yep. I don't know what you mean by have I heard of Boys Town? You're going to have to give me more context than that. Is that a place? Is that a group? Is that... Fourth generation Mexican military family. I don't sew very much at all. In fact, I used to only sew together to put like hems together or whatever, and now I do it all with a crochet stitch because it's prettier and easier for me. At some point, I will probably learn how to sew. Mr. Knitting Call Lady is better with a sewing machine than I am. So if I ever need something, I have to like get him to set it up and show me how to use it because I will promptly flush that out of my brain as soon as I move on to the next thing. You know, ADHD. All right. It is common to go from one cult to another. We call it cult hopping. And I think that until you deconstruct, and like deconstruct and heal both, you keep doing it. My husband used to joke that Daniela loves joining cults when I was in my journey and like the high demand. So here's what I think happens. I think that when you are in an extreme group, right? It's like your brain gets hooked on the feeling. Hooked on feeling. Ooh, we should do a Hooked on a Feeling parody in the musical. I'm high on believing. So basically, I think you go and you get like more, what am I trying to say? I think that when we leave cults, our like meters for purpose and community and mission are like jacked up to 1,000. But we don't know that because everybody is driven by purpose and mission and community, right? So we like don't realize that ours is way too high. And so I think there's partially like a similar process to when people are healing from toxic relationships, right? Like part of that healing can be understanding that you're not going to hit those heights of like passion again because that passion wasn't good for you. I definitely have absolutely unmitigated echolalia, and discovering that really helped me understand my brain. I'm not as stupid as Elon Musk and Mars. That's the other thing I added to the book was a note in chapter 3 on the mission about how cults are always promising space travel. That is why now that you're getting away from the army, you're volunteering for everything. And like, look, I think when you leave the military, you have like a 2-year runway to like find you community and mission and purpose. Otherwise, you're going to like start really struggling with plans to leave the world, etc. And even though I know that the nonprofit area can be so abusive, I still sometimes, like when I have veterans that are really, really struggling, I'm like, go volunteer. Like, go volunteer somewhere. Go, like, you need to feel like you're doing something. And then you need to heal from that. So for me, I realized like I'm addicted to having a mission. And I need to have like an anti-mission. You know, I tell myself regularly, I'm like, it's great that the thing that I've chosen to do helps people, but I'm not here necessarily to help people or to like end cults or to whatever. Like, I'm here building a life for Tom and Daniela and little Love Young. But, you know, I tell people that too. Like, it's okay for your mission to be you. But I think until we like deconstruct and name things, it's really hard for us to not fall for them again. Okay, it was my ADHD hyperfixation before earrings. Okay, so things that I've monetized. Painting. Don't do it that much anymore, but did it a lot for many years. So like before the earrings, like I was making collars, like those ones you saw me steaming. Collars, and then I made 2 different kinds of earrings before I got to the tassel earrings. I was doing cuffs for a while, but I don't know that those are quite as good. They're at least not popular. I don't know. There's just always something. I was cross stitching for a while. I was doing a 1,000,000 stitch Disney tapestry, but then I got to about 300,000 stitches. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done with this. So now I'm making a sweater out of it. I did paint the things on my Etsy. Yeah. My rainbow girls. Oh. Wondering why my horse is falling off. The answer would be because I never tied it. That's going to be the answer. I have marketing and sales advice. I mean, I think that absolutely depends on your product. If you pay no attention to my pants that in no way match the rest of the outfit. My advice, if you want to be a content creator and make money from it, is consistency and authenticity. Show up every day, be reliable, and make good art. And like, okay, my other marketing and sales advice, like when I was trying to just be like, hey, I wrote this really good book, will you read it? Like, I wasn't very successful. But as soon as I just showed up and started giving away my expertise, like that's when people started buying my book. So the advice there is like, you are not trying to get people interested in the thing you're selling. You're making it obvious to people how that helps them. I'm super excited about Culting of America because it's so much easier to sell idea books than it is to sell memoirs. I personally happen to be very, very good at showing people how my life story relates to them and what they're thinking about. And that's a good skill if what your marketing is your story. Oh, forgot about the Rainbow Girls. These are my Rainbow Girls. So it goes. This is I painted this, and I say I painted this like before I found the words to write Uncultured. I call this one Stolen Potential. I call this one Who Am I? This is by far the most popular. The colors are brighter than they look like on YouTube. They're very, very neon. This one I call Whoever the F I Want, Uncultured. This one I do in like paint and sip parties because it looks really complicated, but it's literally 5 lines and hair. And you can like make it however you want. So it's really fun to do with like a large group of women. And then Healed. Yes, show, don't tell. Exactly. I always say, like, I never have to tell ex-Mormons that what they grew up in was a cult because they realize that as they're reading my book. And I've not created the writing class yet, so there's no spots or no spots. There's just no information right now. But, you know, it's on my very specific list. You overthink things. Yeah, but like, why do you overthink things? And what I'm trying to say is that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I overthink things and I talk too much. Once I realized that a lot of that was ADHD, and I was like, oh, so I'm the kind of ADHD that's good at writing books. Soaking up all this information in my brain, and I'm an out loud processor. So having social media channels is nice to my family because then they don't have to hear everything that I have to read and repeat to someone because of unmitigated echolalia. So, you know, I think this is true about deconstruction too. Like, we can't change these intrinsic parts of our personality or like adaptive things that we've learned to deal with trauma necessarily. But once we understand our experiences, like all those skills are ours now. All those stories are ours. And boom, mermaid earrings. I call them mermaid earrings because I have a whole mermaid obsession because they didn't let us watch anything in the cult, right? But they let us watch Little Mermaid because they were like, oh, it's a Christ story. And I was like, oh, she gets away from you in the end. Back to my music. Now I just have to put all of these on hooks. And then I have to go work on a book. My file's lit. I do one-on-one consults. You can email admin@uncultureyourself.com if you would like to get in touch with me. I am like putting the class together right now. but it will have pretty limited membership because obviously I can only give everybody so much value. But my next level of investment is finding people who have stories and helping them learn how to write them. Because that's one of the big things I think that a lot of people don't realize is like, just because you've had an interesting life, right? Like if you've had people tell you like, man, you should write a book. Awesome. Doesn't mean you know how to write a good book. So just either spend like a lot of time studying that and practicing that, or I can teach you a method that I did where I just got help. But yeah, definitely putting some process into how you're going to approach the life story. Made some watermelon ones. These are the bread and butterflies, of course. This will look very cool with my yellow jumpsuit, and then somebody will buy them. Yeah, even if you don't publish it, telling your story is healing. That's true. And so that also comes into like, there's 3 different ways you can put a book in the world. You can self-publish, you can hybrid publish, you can traditionally publish. And there's different reasons for doing each of them. I mean, I got a huge traditional memoir deal with Macmillan, and now I'm self-publishing because I have different goals. So understanding all of that can be very helpful. And then just like, how do you write a book, right? Like how you start, what are the logistics? How do you decide what it's going to be? And I'm not the best writer. Like my writing doesn't see the light of day without an editor or a co-writer generally, unless I'm just reading you all hear things that I've downloaded from my brain. I always joke that every time I send anything to my agent, he's like, great ideas. Now please go get a co-writer to tame your little ADHD brain. I am at least writing the workshop this summer and like planning it. Like it's going to take me longer to launch it, I think, than I thought, because there's going to be more work to just plan it than I thought. And maybe I'll be bringing in someone who's actually a very good writer. I do have TRICARE, but I get my therapy through the VA, which also was a pain and took years of waiting. And I just paid for therapy out of pocket before then. I'm sure I could have gotten it from TRICARE, but I was paying out of pocket anyway because I needed a therapist who understood cults. Early stage of a writing class, we need to start deconstructing and then drop it. Yeah, and I mean, I always say like I hate to see people write their cult books within kind of less than a decade since you left. And this is kind of just true in general, right? Like the writer of The Crown had famously said like he wouldn't do anything that isn't at least 10 years old because history hasn't even decided what the story is yet. And I felt that with writing Uncultured. Like when I was writing the part about the cult, I felt great about it. I was like, I can see that I have plenty of distance, right? I was going on about 18 years of being out of the cult at that point. And I can see where I have more perspective than many cult books I've read, where when they get, like I haven't read Sherry Frankie's book yet, right? But it hasn't been that long. So no matter how good it is, there's going to be kind of a limited amount of perspective and commentary that she can give us. Right? Meanwhile, when I got to the second half of my book, especially the end of it, and it was like only 7 years since I'd gotten out of the military, and I was still on, in the inactive reserves, and I was like sending it off to my co-writers being like, please help take all the vitriol out, you know, like I've done my best. And even now, barely 3 years later, like I would have written the military part, I think, significantly differently, with just a full decade of distance. So that is my recommendation, which doesn't mean don't write, right? I've been writing my whole life, and I wrote my first very bad book proposal when I was 24 years old in Afghanistan. Literally, I think at the end, I was like, the ending kind of remains unfinished because I'm still young. And the answer was like, yeah, not ready to write a book yet. But it was called The Girl from Nowhere. And I put that in here. I'm really proud of it. So I'm just getting back from a horrible deployment to Afghanistan. So we're all standing in formation, ready to see our families. Some general, probably the post commander, droned on about the importance of our mission, our valor, and how important we all were to the country. He said a few solemn words for our fallen. Everyone bowed their heads, a perfect excuse to let a few tears fall. But it would be impossible to stop, so I stood there, trying not to lose my composure. As soon as we were released, I fumbled my way through all the happy, hugging bodies, my vision blurring from the tears. The noise of their reunions enveloped me as I kept my head down, trying not to show my embarrassment. Around me, some people stared in surprise, then pity. The poor first lieutenant, just back from war, who has nobody. Ducking into a side nook in the hangar, I pulled out my phone. Hi, Mom, I'm home. I dissolved into sobs. I cried for my friends, for myself, for my friends who couldn't ever come home again, for the innocence I hadn't been able to lose at war because I'd never had it to begin with. I cried because even though I'd chosen to go on living, I wasn't sure if I could keep making that choice every time I hurt this badly. I cried because I didn't want to be an officer anymore, because I wasn't even sure I wanted to be an American these days, or if I ever had. I cried because I knew that I could easily choose to ditch it all. I could finish my army sentence, move to a beach in Brazil, and take a job teaching English, like a friend from my earlier years was doing happily. I cried because I knew I wouldn't belong there either. It would never be that simple. I cried remembering the only home I'd ever known, the Children of God communes and its people who weren't my people anymore. I cried because I was a girl from nowhere, and all I wanted to do, like any soldier just back from war, was go home. And so speaking of hard books, I'm going to give myself a very easy summer tooling around with my family and my musical. And then in the fall, I'm going to start working on Un-American, which is the second memoir, all about deconstructing power and privilege and whiteness and otherness and what it means to be an American. And it would be hard. It'll probably be more intense than writing Uncultured. It's much less of a hero's journey, much more of me pulling myself apart. We've got some Christmas Prezi ones. Of course, have to have some fabulous orange. Oh, thank you. Yeah, almost anything that claims to help troubled youth, I find very problematic. And like the whole troubled teen industry is just cults, horrific. In my memoir, in Uncultured, in the musical, there's going to be a point where the cult kid stops like performing and dancing and smiling for the camera, and then the troubled teen industry comes and carries her away. Oh no. One of these tassels done broke. And maybe during the AMAs, my Lord and Savior, Dr. Taylor Allison Swift, is going to tell us about TS12, which I'm absolutely sure I need in my life. Thanks for listening. Yeah, I just generally think that, like, okay, the teen program for sure, but even rehabs, they're just like, and definitely AA, it's just like, we just want a place that we can throw troubled people to away instead of dealing with why they are troubled. Like, there's no such thing as a troubled teen. There's traumatized teens. There's no such thing as a problematic child. Like, anyway, there's a book called Jesus Land, who's the New York Times bestselling author who blurbed Uncultured, which was so great because when I read Jesus Land and I was like in the very beginnings of writing Uncultured, I listened to Jesus Land and I remember being like, I'm listening with both sides, like both sides of my brain are having a cray-cray experience because it's like I'm relating from military training, but I'm also relating from growing up in a cult, and they're less humane than military training. ABA is also a terrible industry. Yes. That's just teaching you how to mask. Yes. Parents blaming kids for family issues. It's the one part I liked about the Willy Wonka where they're like, blaming the child is a lie and a shame. You know who's to blame, the mother and the father. I think it's very suspicious, though, that the Oompa Loompas are walking around telling you how happy they are. And like, nobody asked. Nobody asked. But it seems like you're slave labor in exchange for a free place to live. By the way, if anyone ever offers you a free place to live, like, be so careful. No matter how much you need it, be so careful. And keep in mind that you should only ever be trading about 5 hours a week of labor for a place to live. Okay, your financial guidance is always that you shouldn't be paying more than 20, at most 25% of your income in housing costs. So if someone's giving you a free place to live and you're working 40 hours a week for them or more, you are being exploited. Alcoholics Anonymous. If someone is pressuring you to work for free in their business and calling it service, you are being exploited. Alcoholics Anonymous. If somebody is holding your passport, Mormons, you are being trafficked. I'm putting that in the musical too. When the door knocker guy is getting on his chest square, he goes, do you know that holding your passport is in the international definition of trafficking? I don't really touch on Masonic temples. The ABA is, what does it stand for? Something behavioral. It's the thing they used to send autistic children to be like, sprayed with water while you learn to not react to things. Applied behavioral therapy. It's just basically teaching neurodivergent children to very strongly mask so that they don't make people around them uncomfortable. And I think, did it like come out of conversion therapy, or conversion therapy came out of ABA, but they're somehow linked and it's no bueno. Analysis, they call it therapy when they're in front of the kids. Yeah, same person created it. Robert Galbraith, which is also the pseudonym that J.K. Rowling uses when she writes her boy books. And recently published a cult book in which she cited Dr. Stephen Hassan, and he then sold his soul and went against all of his expertise because men. Between him and Rick Allen Ross, I'm basically done with male cult experts. And I made a video today about how, like, women understand cults better than men because all cults are the same. They are all patriarchal. Coercive control is patriarchal. It's about owning, using, and exploiting and extracting. And we know that the oppressed understands the oppressor the best. So men, whether they are joining cults, growing up in cults, they have a limited perspective on a cult. Just like white men have a limited perspective on everything in the world. Next, you have the women cult experts, who I have always found to be more useful. Like, never use the bite model because there's Janja Lalich's bounded choice right there, all right, for me to understand, okay? So women, always an oppressed class in cults, pointed out by Ted Patrick, the one black man involved in snatch and deprogram operations, along with Rick Allen Ross and Steve Hassan. It's not okay to kidnap people and torture them just because you've decided they're in a cult, by the way. As much as I love Ted Patrick for coming for us, like, that was not okay. Okay, so, but Ted Patrick's one that says, like, women are always a servant class in cults. And which then made me realize that, like, yeah, I'm not off base to think that as raised in a cult experts, cult babies understand more than any version of adult who was in a cult, no matter how long they've studied it for. I just know it from birth. Someone asked me once, like, what about cults do you still find mysterious? Nothing. They're not magic. They're not mysterious. All very explainable. My current knitting project is, so I have this, like, whatever, khaki, whatever you call this color, army green jumpsuit, which was like sleeveless and summery. And after a few seasons, I was like, I'm never going to wear this color in the summer. This is not a summer color for me. So I'm putting sleeves on it and making it a fall winter thing. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm also making someone a cult coat. I'm waiting for, because she wants it to be green and purple. So I'm trying to blend purple into green. I actually have like a maroon and green eyelash yarn. So I just have to get a more maroon yarn so that I can blend it better. Most of us who come out of cults aren't novelties. Are you trying to say novelist? Coercive control statue, arguing for a federal. Yes. See, and that was what, like, that's the whole cult wars. And something I didn't get into in the book, and I don't think I want to, but I'm thinking, like, maybe I'll add a paragraph because I give, like, a history of cults in America. And I should add a paragraph on the cult wars. But basically, like, just completely lost what I was saying. Oh yeah, the cult wars was basically in the 80s. There was a public appetite for laws against coercive control, right? And in Japan, they passed them. It is illegal in Japan to force your child to be in a religion or go to church. They call it a soul crime. But our religious leaders were like, oh, novelty, yeah. Our religious leaders were like, no, because if they put control over cult leaders, then they're going to affect our control. So we're going to fight it. And so they went and got a bunch of academics to demonize cult scholars and demonize the word cult and talk about how it's just a bunch of people hating and religious freedom and how we shouldn't listen to cult survivors. That was like academic wisdom for like 2 decades. It was like, we don't listen to cult survivors about cults because they're disgruntled. Serious? So, yeah, the cult wars. And the man who came up with the term new religious movements, who's still cited for it, Gordon Mother Effin Melton took $100,000 from the Children of God religious schmecks pedo cult to say that they weren't a cult. 4 countries around the world then gave the children back to the pedo cult, thanks to religious scholars who need to stay the F out of cults because they're not even tangentially related. No, religion's an idea way over here where you study ideas. Cults are groups way over here where we study groups. So, yeah. Anyway, it's been very, but again, and even for the like being able to push back, right? Like they try it with me, academics try it with me, people try it with me. Oh, we don't use this word, blah, blah, blah. And I can push back very strongly as not only an expert in this field, but someone whose literal life was affected because of crap scholarship and all of the politics around this. Yeah, I don't know with the Quakers. Like I've heard some stories, and again, it's like any group can be a cult. So I believe them when I hear them, I guess. I've just not heard too many bad stuff about like Quakers, Universalist Unitarians. That's about it. Satanic Temple. I did recently hear that the Satanic Temple is baptizing dead Christians and Mormons. I love that. If you don't know, the Mormons baptize dead people into Mormonism, and they have been sued for it specifically by Jewish people who they are heavily traumatizing. And they have won the lawsuits, which also means that they can't stop the Satanic Temple from baptizing them into Satanism once they are passed. So I hope you're not just walking around your celestial kingdom one day and then just whoop, get sucked up into a giant vacuum hole. It's probably because the Satanic Temple just baptized you into hell. Now you're going to have to hang out there until someone else finds you and baptizes you back into heaven. Oh, I love it. And this is why I say, like, people get stopped on the what about cults. Mormons do what? But this thing you do is so ridiculous. What? And they don't get to the why. And the why is just always to get your labor. Oh, and I didn't finish telling the story about organizational psychology. Okay, so I said we got psychologists who studied abuse and cults to build modern day military training, right? At the same time, the discipline of organizational psychology was being born, of which I am an ist. And organizational psychologists went and studied who? The US military, primarily. Many of the studies which organizational psychology is based on the US military. And so if you wonder why all of your companies are starting to be so culty, that's because the people that are hired by your boss to motivate you, to donate your labor, to help them build their good cults, like it all comes from the same place. And this is unfortunately why my experience is also very relative right now. Relevant. But yeah, I mean, the good news, like there was almost nothing to talk about in my week 18 of the Trump administration this week TikTok, because like it's already turning into a lame duck presidency. I mean, they did pass the Medicaid cuts thing through late last night, but like they're getting stopped. Everyone's taking down their Trump flags. The brain drain is still going on, and I think is going to affect our country for the rest of our lives. Because, that's what happens when tyrants get into place. Like the good people leave. That's been going on in the military. I mean, the military has been going through an insane brain drain for the past 20 years because mediocrity gets passed along the chain and excellence doesn't. Excellence gets stunted. And we've been for years like, you're just like, the reason that all these generals over and over again with scandals is because like those are the people that should have been kicked out as captains. But instead, they were just rolled on up the chain with more and more deification as they go along. Yeah, people are hiding their flags, right? Like they're starting to realize that like they don't want to be associated with being a Trump supporter. Starting to hear a lot more like, not all Republicans are MAGAs. I'm like, yeah, you still didn't have a problem with a criminal rapist traitor being president. So I think we're going to remember. I think that, that's what I talked about on my week thing, was that like the ICE agents and many other federal agents are being deputized to go work with ICE right now, covering their faces. That's the kind of thing that really screws you in a war tribunal later on. It's really hard to argue that you thought what you were doing was okay when you're putting a whole bandana wrapped around your face. So again, as I keep saying, like, he is immune, but everyone that works for him is not immune. The Signal Gate participants can be prosecuted for 75 years. It's a lot of upcoming administrations. All right, so yeah. Okay, how do I maintain my mental health? Then I'm going to have to go. The first thing is like I've fully deconstructed and spent a lot of time on healing, and also spent a lot of time figuring out what kind of scholar, content creator, writer I didn't want to be, what kind of books and content I didn't want to write and create, right? Nothing I do is sensational. So even though it is negative, it is not sensational in that way. I also like have a very, very balanced life, and I think people think that I am all the time obsessive about this, and I really, really am that autistic, but I've basically made my whole life to where I log off at 3 p.m. every day for the last decade and hang out with my kid and my family and do art and crafts. And so even though I'm this like, I don't actually like to take weekends off because I'm the kind of autistic that gets mad at the weekends for ruining my routines. But I do a lot of balance, and I very much don't like I had to at one point be like, I don't do cult stuff in the evenings. Sorry. 2 weekends or 2 nights a month, I have cult book club. But like I originally had book club going from 8:30 to 10 p.m., which one is just too late for me. But, so that the West Coast could participate. But I was like, I can't. And I need, hours before I go to bed. I don't watch a lot of like, right now we're watching Ozark, which is quite dark and intense, but I don't watch a lot of dark, intense things because I just like to, live in the nice life. And that's how you balance it. And also money. And I always say this, it's like, getting paid for your life story doesn't get rid of the trauma, but it sure can buy you time and space for healing while you do it, and like I make good money doing this stuff. So I know exactly why I do it and how to monetize it and where that stops for me and doesn't like bleed over into the rest of my life. And it's a good career to have because the people in my normal life apparently don't want to listen to me talk for cults 12 hours a day and make every subject about cults. So that's why you build a YouTube channel where you can do that now. Who's in Dallas? Oh, Dallas. Handmaid's Tale. Ooh, that'll be good. Nice one. I'm a UT Dallas alumni, so always got my eye on Dallas. All right. Bye, friends. See you tomorrow with some Culting of America updates.